I want to play devil's advocate here. People are under the assumption that Alexander Midas will be a lot easier and accessible to a larger audience in 3.2. People believe that because the DPS checks are gone, somehow this makes the new Midas tier a lot easier. I simply do not believe that Midas will be painless. In fact, I believe it will be completely opposite. Let's take a look at how gear has historically been distributed in Final Fantasy XIV throughout 2.0 and going into 3.0, and then how it will affect gear progression in 3.2. In both 2.2 and 2.4, which were progression patches, we had one primal in each patch, which distributed weapons. Leviathan dropped I-95 tidal weapons, whereas Shiva dropped I-110 ice weapons. Not only do both of these weapons match the previous patch's raid tier weapons, but they also dropped items which allowed you to upgrade these weapons by 5 item levels. Therefore, we can assume that the weapons dropped by Sephiroth the Fiend in 3.2 will also be upgradable and match the previous tiers of weapon in terms of item level. Next, we always got a new set of tome gear, which was higher eye level than the previous raid tier by at least 10 levels, followed by new raid only drops, which were an even higher item level. These new raids then also dropped items which allowed you to upgrade the tombstone gear to match the dropped raid gear. This is usually a 20 item levels boost over the previous tier of raids. However, 3.0 then introduced the normal raids, such as Alexander Gorde's Normal. These raids acted as an additional bridge between fresh players using the uncapped tome, which in 3.0 were laws, and the raid gear. This set of gear again was 10 item levels higher than the previous set, in this case laws, which were I-170 pieces which were upgradable to 180. The strongest primal weapons in 3.0 were Ravana weapons, at item level 190, which matched the Alexander Gorde's normal gear. Based off the fact that Yoshi P has said, going into 3.0 our item level will be increasing a lot more than what we're used to, I firmly believe that the new weapon will be I-110 or I-115 with an upgradable item which allows you to boost it to I-120. The Alexander Midas normal gear will be I-120 to then match the primal weapon upgrade. Then, the new Law Tombstone gear along with the weapon will be I-130, which can then be upgraded to I-140. And of course the new raid gear will be I-240, with the weapon either being I-240 or I-245. Having said that, in 3.0 the release of Alexander Normal and Alexander Savage were staggered, where the Savage mode was released 2 weeks after the normal mode. In 3.2 this will not be the case, so we'll be jumping from I-210 to I-240 in a single patch. At least that's what I am assuming. Square Enix have also balanced their raid counters around the middle ground item level between the previous content that dropped gear and the highest item level of the patch, which was a 20 item level difference. So 2.2 was balanced around item level 90 and item level 110. 2.4 was balanced between item level 210 and item level 130, and 3.0 was balanced between I-190 and I-210. However, this raid was tuned higher than normal and most people started getting their clears of A4S at around I-205, so this raid is of course the exception. All of the previous tiers of raids had a difference of around 10 item levels between the raid entry item level and what the content was tuned for. Therefore, I'm under the assumption that Alexander Midas Savage will be tuned between I-220 and I-240, which makes the middle ground item level 230. And remember, at the start of patch 3.2, everyone will be item level 210. This means the difference in our item level and the item level at which the content will most probably be tuned for is 20. A 20 item level difference between our item level and what the content will be tackling will be tuned for. This would be the equivalent of doing turn 13 in I-100 or A1S in I-180. Heck, if I remember correctly, in an interview, Lucrezia were unable to clear either turn 9 or turn 13 in week 1 without the use of crafted gear, as they were consistently hitting enrage at around 13%, and to provide their tanks with additional vitality padding. If I could find the interview, I'd quote them for verbatim, but unfortunately I lost the link. Talking of vitality, tanks will also receive changes to their damage formula, where vitality, I assume, will dominate strength and take over as their primary attribute affecting their attack power. Because of the inflated vitality, for balancing reasons, do you seriously think Square Enix aren't going to increase the incoming tank damage? All of the past few points I made, they sound very reminiscent of Binding Coil of Bahamut, where a vast majority of players entering the raid in week 1 and week 2 were primarily in item level 60. Funnily enough, Binding Coil of Bahamut was remembered as one of the most toughest raids that people encountered due to the sheer amount of incoming spike damage, on top of the fact that the DPS just did not have enough gear and were consistently hitting enrage. With all that said, do you still think Midas Savage will be easy? That's something for you to decide. If I am right, I can kind of see what Yoshi P is trying to accomplish by maximizing his productivity and resources available for Final Fantasy XIV, trying to cater all the raids for 3 groups of players, the casuals, the mid-core and the hardcore. He will achieve this by stretching out the Savage raid over a period of time using gear checks which are all time gated. In the short-term lifespan of Midas, this raid will serve as extremely challenging content for the hardcore audience, like myself, by putting us in a position where to compete for those server and world tops, we need to maximize our DPS and mitigation as much as possible due to the gear checks. Well, there isn't really a gear check, we're just simply undergeared. In the long term, so 1 or 2 months after its initial release, the mid-core players who either don't have enough time to tackle content or simply aren't as skilled as the world-class players will eventually be able to clear the raid within the item level brackets at which the raids were tuned for. Fury 3.2 should please all kind of raiders in the long term. I do have a feeling, however, that in the first few weeks, players who under the false impression that Midas will be easy will QQ, rage, whine, cry on Reddit or on the official forums as the raids are too hard for them, but little did they realise that it was intentionally tuned this way due to the gear checks. Of course, I could be completely wrong, and Square Enix may do something completely different, or Midas Normal will drop item level 210 gear, meaning yes, Midas will be easy, as the item level gap will be a lot smaller. But history always repeats itself, and from my experience playing Final Fantasy XIV, a lot of systems we've seen are, well, repetitive. Those are my thoughts of 3.2 and how I feel Square Enix may handle the content and gear in 3.2. Let me know in the description box down below what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up to support this channel, or give it a thumbs down if you disliked it. I don't discriminate. Anyways guys, take care, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.